and welcome to the Millionaire Way for a richer life, the podcast that's all about helping and inspiring people to achieve their dreams and goals. So I'm your host, Cecilia Brändström. I'm a vocal coach with over 30 years of experience in helping individuals with their vocal abilities, whether they are singers or speakers. And today we have a very special guest, Armstrong, a remarkable speaker, a storyteller, and autism advocate who believes that autism is not a disability but a different way of learning. Christian is also an actor and a comedian with a unique journey to share. So welcome, Christian, and thank you for being here and sharing your story with us.
Hey, Cecilia, I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
Yes, this is going to be a cool interview. I'm so happy that you are joining me for this. Okay, so Christian, you've had an incredible journey from acting to becoming a motivational speaker for individuals with autism. Could you tell us more about yourself and what inspired this transition?
Yeah, so I was always brought up in kind of around acting, the theater for the most part. And I started acting when I was 9 years old, around there. And I grew a passion for playing different characters on the stage, went to film school and done some short films and got a few agencies with pursuing the acting business. And then I wasn't getting in the auditions room, like the casting rooms, as much as I wanted to. And I didn't have the best of luck with agents. And acting right now it's kind of, we'll see where things take it with acting right now. But then I hit a bit of a road bump where I didn't know where to go from there. And I started watching motivational speaking videos to start my morning when I was getting ready or on my way to work. And a lot of people were encouraging me my whole life, said, you got a really encouraging story. Like, you could impact so many people. And I took that to heart, and I reached out to one of my schools that I graduated from in high school, and they wanted me to come share at the school, to come speak for the students. And ever since then, I fell in love with speaking, and I've been honored to share my story and now take it on as my upcoming career now.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Thank you for sharing. So I was wondering, in your introduction, you mentioned that when you were younger, people viewed autism as a complete disability. Could you share with our viewers what the first couple of years living with autism were like for you and how perceptions have evolved since then?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed about in 2001. And as a lot of the viewers and yourself know, like back in the early 2000s, autism was viewed as very limited. Like, we didn't have much of a voice for autism that we do now here on social media, for instance. Like, I was always told that I could never graduate, go to university, get a driver's license, take on speaking, for example, like this, go into team sports, get married, like all these things. And I just said, I want to accomplish all these things. And I proved all those odds wrong. And I truly believe that it's what you set your mind to, and it doesn't have to be achieved like today or tomorrow or a year from now. Like, if it takes you 20, 30 years, like it took me, that's still success.
Yeah.
And we're so impatient naturally as human beings. I think if we learn to enjoy the process and look back, like even 20, 30 years from now, say, let's see how far we've come. Well, that's why I view autism as a different way of learning. I'm totally okay if people want to view it as a disability, because I used to believe autism was a disability back when I was 5, 10, 15 years old, you name it. But I think what I've learned and accomplished along the way and set my mind to goals and determination, I think if you don't have a cookie cutter mindset and have an open mind, you know, I think autism, like neurodivergent, like I am, and then neurotypicals who are not used to or have autism, is just two. If you look at it this way, it's two different worlds who have a different brain, different mind, and we're all trying to succeed and come around together. Say, how can we work with each other to succeed?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But can you share some specific examples on how society's understanding of autism has changed over the years? Do you have a specific, do you know that? Anything concrete?
Anything specific? Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I think back then it was because it was, oh, autism, we can't communicate the ways we want. Like society wants verbal communication. Society wants us to succeed in school back with learning through books or audios or stuff like that. But I've seen students and other individuals succeed by hands-on through visuals in school. Through it wasn't all verbal and stuff like that. Like, for example, myself in school, I'm very into football and hockey, like American football and ice hockey, where just so some of you, if they're not from Canada, I through math, for example, math was something with numbers, and I wasn't very good with numbers, but my learning assistant teacher, my EA, who'd help me out, once she started talking football or hockey stats, for example, the math started to click. So I think it's all about, once you start to get to know your students or whatnot, that's when you really excel. Where if you're only wanting them to succeed one way and teach them one way, well, then they're probably not going to succeed the way you want them. But if you're open to different ideas, where it's, because I always say, verbal learning, visual learning, audiobooks, hands-on, like there's so many different ways to learn.
Yeah.
And every individual has different hobbies, different passions. Like I was seeing on social media not too long ago, actually, I heard this story where there was this individual who was autistic who went up to this helicopter. I don't know if you heard the story. He went up into this helicopter and he was looking down upon the city of New York City. And people were looking up and it's like, what is this guy doing? He's just sitting up there doing nothing. Well, he was taking notes of what the city of New York looked like. He came back down about 20, 30 minutes later, and he drew the entire landscape.
Oh, wow.
And what New York City looked like. And so that's an autistic individual who's on the spectrum, who just did that. And people say, back in 2001, for example, when I was limited, they would say you couldn't do that. Like, here's another example I'll give you. So I said I'm into like American football. I would watch NFL, CFL, who's ever familiar with that. When I was about 10 years old, I was sitting on the couch with my dad at home on like a NFL Sunday, and he would quiz me. He'd say, okay, when the quarterback would hand the ball off to the running back, they'd say, they'd have all these different holes. They'd call it like second, fourth, sixth, eighth hole down up to the offensive line. He'd say, what hole is that going to go under, or what side of the ball they're going to take that they're running the ball to? And I would tell him which way the football is going to and which way the offense was going to go. About 90% of the time, I was right.
That is cool. Wow.
So, and a lot of people would never understand that, and they'd say, oh, that's not smart. But you look at, they think like you have to be this doctor or this lawyer, but that's just what society says is smart. And I think, who's to say? Everybody has their strengths.
Yeah, I totally agree. But when you have like a photographable memory, is that a word for it? I've heard that they call it like a savant. Is that right pronounced?
I've heard that saying, yeah, savant. Yeah.
like Rain Man or Mozart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, that is a cool ability to to be able to do that. I would like to have a total musical ear like Mozart. Wow, my life would be so much easier. But but I was thinking, in your opinion, what role can parents, educators, or society, as a whole,
Hmm.
play in creating a more inclusive and supportive environment for individuals with autism?
Uh,
Like in school, how
how for a more
mm,
inclusive environment? Yeah, I
yeah,
would say, I would say first and foremost, I would say we need to do a better job of getting to know individuals like students. We need to do a better job on getting to know them, because
mm,
once we get to know the heart and soul of the person, that's how we know what they're good at, what they struggle with, what different ways we can teach as a teacher.
mm,
Um, because back then, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Back in the 1900s, 18 like the 80s,
mm,
teachers just had a like this whole manual book. This is how I teach. This is how I teach that. And if the students don't meet that or those requirements, well, they're not smart enough to graduate.
yeah,
But now we're starting to discover that students can succeed in different ways, where it doesn't have to be by the manual book.
yeah,
It can
yeah,
be it can be through drawing, or like seeing stuff through videos that their brain clues into what's going on. It doesn't have to be through verbal on a piece of paper, writing a quiz. You could do a quiz or a test through verbal communication, just talking to the teacher rather than writing it out. So
yeah.
I think the number one, in my personal opinion, is getting to know your students. What are their passions, their hobbies, what makes them tick and
Mm,
frustrated? To me, that's the number one, first and foremost.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That goes for every child because every child is a unique individual with or without autism. So yeah, that's really good advice. And yeah, I was thinking, um, being I'm jumping now, but being a teenager
Yeah.
and a young adult, that is challenging for everyone. I know that because I have teenage kids. And yeah, but were there any specific challenges you faced during this period of your life? And how, if there were, how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So there was definitely many challenges that
Mm,
I could go through a list on for sure. But um, the biggest thing was I created this support system, this support group around me, like family, friends, teachers, where I would say, this is what my obstacle is, and I want to overcome them. So, of course, those individuals who didn't have autism like I did, they would find ways to reach me on ways that, like, for example, sports, something I was passionate about, saying, how could I communicate with that to Christian on a sports level, or even an acting level through theater, and help him succeed, because they come from a neurotypical world, where I came from a neurodivergent world. So what we did is we kind of collaborated the two together, saying, how can we work together to help each other succeed? If you know what I'm trying to say,
mm, yeah. Mm,
is the biggest thing was taking, because the challenge was a big hurdle, of course. So I would take it one step, like one day or one week at a time. For example, if it was in school, like I know I had a hard time talking to different classmates at recess or at lunch. They would say, because I didn't know how to talk or communicate with others. If they'd say, if you could just say hi or hello or do a simple wave, that's a win. That's one step.
mm,
So try that for a week. Just try that. And of course, we're human. I would shy away some days. I'm not perfect, but and slowly, eventually, after about a month, I was saying stuff like, "Hey, can I play? Can I play?" Or words like, "Thanks for including me." And then about 6 months down the road, I was having about a 2-minute conversation with someone. It wasn't all the time, but then you start to transition into middle school. Then you start to make some like 2, 3, 4 friends, and then it starts to become like this routine, because when you're diagnosed with autism at first, your routine is very like you're in your house all the time. Maybe you're playing video games, whatever. Every autistic individual is different, but my routine was kind of similar to that as a kid. I didn't want to leave the house. Now I want to leave the house and make more friends. At 29 years old, I am. Is because I had a goal, I had my mind set to something, and I went after it. And that's what I encourage anyone listening to this interview right now is, if you have any goal or hobby or dream set in your mind, go for it. And if someone says, no, you can't, I say, yes, you can. If it takes you 50 years, so be it. Just enjoy what you're doing and love the process, because it's not worth doing if you're not having fun.
No, absolutely. So it seems like you are from a very your upbringing was very secure and safe, in a way, supportive environment.
Yeah. It was very safe. I mean, of course, I still had people who doubted me and my ability, and that's common with anyone who has autism. But I was very fortunate with great parents and great friends where they wanted to see me succeed. And unfortunately, I wish I was wrong in this, but unfortunately, that's not the case for every kid or every parent or adult with autism.
No.
And I'm sorry to hear that if that's going on in anyone's life who is watching this, because I feel for them, and I know what it feels like for someone not to believe in you. So I'm saying this to anyone listening right now, if anyone is being told that you can't, or that you're not good enough, or you're not valued for your autism, I just want to tell them, you here right now, that you are valued, and I believe in you.
That's so nice. But do you think, is it like the social skills? Have you trained those social skills? Is it trainable for a person without autism? It comes naturally, the social capacity and the skills. So,
sorry, your question is it trainable?
Trainable, the social skills that we take for granted.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Anybody can apply this to their lives. And what I'm doing is I'm giving tips what worked for me. Like taking it one step, one day, 1 week at a time, taking tactics into saying, try this with your social skills. Now work at that for a month. Now try this, work at that for a month, or even longer, whatever the individual may need. And this is applicable to anyone without autism too.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work for someone, that's okay. I'm just transferring over what I learned. And I think this message is applicable to anyone, whether you have autism or not.
Yeah, of course.
It's really, if we've all been told we can't, or have had doubters in our life, right? So I always say, if you've had doubters and someone who say your dream is unattainable, well, I got news for you. Autistic people are told that every single day. Yeah. So if you can relate to that, then I always say you can relate to someone with autism.
Yeah. So that's really nice said of you. Yeah. But I was thinking, one of the central questions that I wanted to ask you is whether autism is, in fact, a disability or a new ability. So what are your thoughts about that?
I always say I want to leave it up to the audience or the listener. I never try and force my opinion down someone's throat. I try not to. I always just try to leave facts with things I've learned. And the biggest thing I come back to on that is, I'm sure you've heard this before, is all of us who are created, put here on earth, we're all created uniquely and different, and we all have a purpose here on earth. So, you can call it faith, you can call it whatever you want. Is I say that if we have a purpose, if we're created uniquely and wonderfully made, then if autism's a disability, then the fact doesn't line up, then truthfully doesn't. If we're created uniquely and wonderfully made with a purpose, there's something in there that doesn't line up if autism is a disability. So if you're saying autism is a disability, then I'm not uniquely and wonderfully made. We all have different abilities. We may not offer the same ability as someone else, but that's what makes us so awesome and different, is we all help each other succeed together. And if I don't know if you're understanding what I'm saying, is that's why I always say autism is a different way of learning. It's a new ability. And that's why I always leave it up to the viewer and the listener, is I offer that perspective and that mindset. It's up to you. Society thinks this way, but this is how I think.
Yeah. That is so wise. That's a really good advice. And thank you so much for sharing your unique perspective. And before we wrap it up, do you have any advice for individuals with neurodiverse conditions who aspire to become, like yourself, a speaker or an actor?
Yeah. My biggest advice is keep trying. Like, I would say, I don't care how small the win is. If it's just one thing you can take and just say, like, for example, if you're struggling with mental health or the doubters are getting to you, if you can just say, I don't usually get out of bed and go for a walk and get outside, hey, that's a win. That's a win. It could be something so simple. And I encourage you, don't try and be like me, because my story is different and your story is different. So be your own best version of yourself, whatever that may look like. Your story is true to you. My story is true to me. I'm taking my advice and I'm giving it on to you. So keep pushing through. If it takes 50, 60 years, that's still success. And I believe in every single one of you. And if you're not autistic, hey, we're all learning. We're all growing. I've learned from a neurodivergent to also learning what it's like in a neurotypical world. And if you're living in a neurotypical world, I encourage you, try and learn what it's like to live in an autistic world, because we're two different worlds trying to succeed together. I encourage you, find autistic friends, find neurotypicals who don't have autism, learn and grow together.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Christian Armstrong. It's so nice talking to you. You're a very
nice talking to you too.
Yeah, you're a very wise man. And Christian's journey from acting to motivational speaking is a testament to the transformative power of embracing one's unique abilities. You're a fine example of that, Christian. And for everybody who has been viewing us, we hope you've gained valuable insights into the world of autism and the potential it truly holds. And if you'd like to learn more about Christian's work or connect with him, please visit. And now I'm going to add the website. Ticker. All right. It's so many buttons. So visit Christian's website, christianmotivates.com. And if you want to have Christian speak for you, just reach out to him. So thank you so much, Christian, and thank you for watching the Millionaire Ways for a Richer Life. And join us next time as we continue to bring you inspiring stories and practical advice for achieving your dreams and goals. And don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends or colleagues. And if you have any thoughts or questions, please reach out and we might feature them into future episodes. So until then, stay motivated and keep striving for a richer life. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. Until next time.